What's up, everybody? We are here with someone really special today, someone who has worked as a lead writer on one of the most popular animated shows, Avatar: The Last Airbender, and of course, is one of the creators of The Dragon Prince. Aaron, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you so much. I'm Aaron EHASZ, and as you said, I was head writer on Avatar: The Last Airbender, and with my partner Justin Richmond, created The Dragon Prince, and I'm happy to be here.
So, thank you so much for joining us today, Aaron. So, first of all, congratulations on your success for The Dragon Prince. It's such an amazing show that I think everybody enjoys. It is very entertaining, and I'm sure with season 6 coming out this week, The Dragon Prince is going to prove yet again why it's so successful. And now that we're on the topic of season 6, how are you feeling about the upcoming release of season 6? And what should fans expect going into the season, and what do you hope they will take away from it?
Well, I'm super excited about the new season that's coming out. It's the culmination of a lot of the story that we had planned from the beginning of this arc. So, season 4 is the beginning of the Mystery of Aaravos arc. And so there's some buildup and some things that are laid in season 4 and season 5 that kind of come to fruition in season 6. So it's going to feel good, I think, for a lot of our audience to understand and see those things. I'm also just really proud of it. The team worked so hard and put together a season that I think is really both balanced and extraordinary. I think the characters sing and their arcs are, they wear their hearts on their sleeve, and things are happening and they're growing and changing. And at the same time, there's amazing action and deep lore and some great world building. So everyone really just did an amazing job and put this together. And I think a lot of our team, our writers, our animators, and artists will be watching proudly and interested to see how our audience and the Dragon Prince community responds to it. So couldn't be more excited about this coming season.
Yeah, I'm also really excited for season 6, and it's probably going to be one of the best seasons. I'm really confident about that because you talked about how seasons 4 and 5 really tie into it, and I can't wait to see like the story arcs that have to be completed in season 6 that were from season 4 and 5, because it really makes those seasons more important to the actual story.
It all fits together, and sometimes I think when you're experiencing a single season, you don't necessarily. And I think we knew that when season 4 was coming out, that it was a bit of an act 1 for this arc. It had kind of the responsibility of reintroducing, but also introducing new plot lines and ideas, and so that is kind of a storytelling burden that you hopefully, can carry in a way that's, graceful. But it's more challenging in some ways. Season, the third acts of arcs, if you've built them properly, are easier to carry because you're kind of delivering all the things you've set up. All the kind of potential energy is being converted to kinetic energy in terms of story.
All right, so with season 6 being called Stars, we would love to discuss all things related to the Star Arcanum. So before season 6, we haven't really seen any star creatures or any star related themes like star elves or star creatures, except Stella, of course. However, there are so many theories going around the fandom, plus there are so many hints in the new clips and of course the trailer. For example, we do know there's a new star elf called the Merciful One, and we've heard some theories about the unicorn Leola. Can you talk a little bit more about them and star elves and star magic in general?
Sure. I mean, this is book 6, Stars, so this is definitely the season where we expect to get a little more information on them. But, they're Star Touch elves in general are mysterious and immortal and removed, right? So they're almost detached from the world in a lot of ways, except when they have chosen to manifest and engage, which obviously Aaravos did at some point. And but in terms of star magic, I mean, some of it too is, I think, we have this short that has, or it's actually the intro to the season that's come out, where the Merciful One sees Aaravos, who has been weeping and is distraught, and comes to him and says, "We are, all of us, stardust, held together by love for an instant." And I think it's that sentiment kind of meant to both connect us to the stars and also kind of ground our reality and our lives and the way we exist in love for kind of this moment, whether it's for 10,000 years or 100 years. And so that's a sentiment that I think is interesting, both kind of the mortality one and the connection to the stars and the magic of that, and the fact that life is magic through love.
All right, so now that you talked a little bit about like the Star Kingdom and like starter elves, you mentioned how like starter elves are like away from like Zadia, I guess. So can you give us any like hints as to where exactly they like reside? Like where
Outer
exactly they live?
space.
Like, they just live in outer space.
Not on like a planet. They are connected to the stars and the heavens in a way that is hard to describe materially. So they're not like flying around space in ships. They're star touch elves. So you'll learn a little more about that in the season. So hang on, but I will say it's a kind of a cosmic existence, not a material existence, except when they choose or when they are able to choose to manifest materially in this world.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much for that answer. I think we've definitely been really curious to know more about the Star Arcanum. And as you mentioned, like there's a lot of mystery surrounding it. So I guess like another question we had prepared was about like the Archdragon of the stars, since I realized that there hasn't really been a mention of it so far. And I think in Tales of Zadia, they do talk about like star devourer dragons, and they mentioned that the Sunfire Elves had this chant that kept them away from the sun. And since this is like an interesting bit of lore, I was wondering if there's anything you can tell us about them and if we will see them in the next season.
I think I shouldn't say anything just yet about dragons that are connected to the stars. So I'm sorry I can't. But yes, the lore you're citing is, I think, very intriguing and cool. So thank you for mentioning it.
Yeah, definitely.
So we did notice that you mentioned, okay, we're getting to another lower one. So we noticed that you mentioned that the young elf featured in the constellation map in the Mystery of Aaravos intro was named Leola, but we also know that Leola is a unicorn. Also, we noticed a similar looking star elf in the background of Aaravos' star poster. Could you talk a little bit more about who Leola is, if she has a connection to Aaravos, and if she will play a role in season 6?
You know what I'll say? You'll learn more about Leola in season 6, and the questions you've asked will be answered very clearly. So these are great questions. The problem, of course, is like we're just about to see the season,
Right.
So I have to at least withhold the stuff that is better experienced as a part of the story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. That makes sense. And I guess like another big theme that we noticed in the Dragon Prince more generally, like relating to lore, is also like the importance of symbols, patterns, and numbers. So I don't know if you can necessarily like touch on this, but something that we noticed was that in like the Aaravos star poster, for example, that there were these like circular patterns on his spell book that also resemble the patterns on the floor of the star scraper, as well as like the clock and time related motifs and like the 8 different staffs. And we also noticed that on the ancient magic symbol in Aaravos' spellbook, when he talks about like Infantis Sanguinae, that also appears on the cursed coins. There are like 9 small spokes and 2 small ones and 2 longer ones in the symbol. So we were wondering if there's anything you can tell us about the importance of these various symbols, and if there's anything we should look out for in season 6.
Yes. So you've mentioned a lot of different examples just now. I will say a few of them are coincidence or manifestations of the fact that we've been working with the same brilliant artists since season 1, and they're going to both kind of naturally and intentionally bring in visual themes and patterns that they like because of some either artistic vision for the world or because of what they comes out of them. But some of them are quite intentional from both an art and a writing perspective. So the 2 examples that came to mind in your list, one is the symbol on the coins, which is also the symbol on the book. And yes, it connects to old, deep magic, and you'll see a little more of that in the coming season. But yeah, you've caught it. It connects to something deeper. And then the second thing you mentioned is that you spotted the staffs. in the Star Scraper. So I'll share something a little meaty, which is to say that that is where the staff came from. And so the question would be, how did it go from there to Viren? Now we know, we've seen the scene with Ziard talking about when he has the staff, says it was a gift from a great one. So, but yes, you've connected it to, it is not a random decoration. That is the origin of where the staffs are kept.
Got it. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's definitely very interesting. It's definitely something that we've been thinking about in terms of like theories for the season.
Yeah.
So I guess like another topic sort of related we wanted to discuss was like Aaravos. Obviously, he's going to have like a big role to play in this season since it is the star season. And we want to talk about his backstory and how it will be highlighted in season 6. So we've sort of pieced together through like various short stories and like clips that he's like this fallen star who falls to Zadia after being stripped of his powers, presumably, and that he, upon his fall, seems to have created the Sea of the Cast Out, or there seems to be like a connection there. So I was wondering, first of all, like, I guess you already like covered this, but where Aaravos is falling from, since we don't know much about like the origins of Star Touch elves, and also if there's anything you can tell us about what we can expect when it comes to learning more about Aaravos in season 6, and if you could talk maybe about like the inspirations you've had for his character.
Okay, there's a lot in that question to unpack, as they say. A lot of it I'm going to kick off to season 6, which is to say, and if someone's watching this, I would suggest rewind 30 seconds, rewatch the question, listen to it. They're just great observations. You're definitely observing all the right things and patterns. But yes, some of the origin story of who and why are going to be revealed in season 6. And then what was there was a last tag on question at the end. Can you remind me?
The inspirations for his character. Like, what were his inspirations?
The most core, I think, kind of mythic inspirations have been kind of a combination between a two-sided glimpse of Prometheus and Lucifer, which I've always thought was really interesting. It's sort of like there's this idea that Prometheus is this titan who shared, fire with humans, right? And I guess set them apart from the animals and made them more godlike in that moment. And so Prometheus does that and is seen as kind of a hero to humanity, but is punished by the gods for allowing this to happen. And then there's a very similar story in a way, which is Lucifer or the devil or the serpent or whatever, giving or sort of seducing Eve and Adam in the garden to take a bite from the apple and gain knowledge of good and evil or whatnot. So it's, again, this transcendence from sort of more animal level to this more godly knowledge. And that violation is seen as quite a, as a trick, as the beginning of their fall, as original sin, all these things. And I'm not really commenting on either idea being right or wrong, but I think it's a very interesting thing in our kind of cultural history and our mythic understanding of the world and how we relate to greater powers and things, that there are these two mythic views that have a really interesting similarity, which is that it was never supposed to be shared with humanity. Elevating humanity was never, but the view of kind of Prometheus and Lucifer have been different. And so that's kind of a line in which we've been trying to walk with Aaravos. So which is, who is he? What does he want? How has he come to be in a situation where he has somehow been involved in magic passing from, Star Touch elves or from the elves and the dragons to humans? What is his involvement in that? And again, some of those questions will be answered in season 6, but that's the kind of mythic cultural seeds that we were influenced by that I'm interested in with Aaravos.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I really like those mythic comparisons, and it really brings depth to Aaravos' character.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely really interesting that you mentioned Prometheus and the fire myth and how dark magic is sort of this allegory, comparing I guess corruption and fire I think is interesting too. So I wonder if you could talk about maybe like not only like the inspirations like mythologically of how like dark magic compares to like this gift from the gods that has been bestowed on to humanity in this case, but also like the theme of corruption and how like that gift is not only like fire in the sense that it is something that provides for humanity and is something that's important, but also something that ultimately contaminates humanity. Like if there's any like allegorical representations you can talk about there, or any like storytelling goals that you have.
If I were answering your questions on a test, like an essay question, I would read to the end, and then I would probably read it through and try to and break it down. You guys, you're both asking such terrific questions, and they're loaded with great observations and great understanding, and I appreciate that. Talking about, let's see, dark magic and its connection to corruption. Well, so first of all, it's like I think of some things as, so corruption is a negative word for sure, and it's a negative thing. And I think the idea of corruption is the idea that something has been compromised, or slightly broken or caved in or weakened in exchange for something else, and that over time that weakening can lead to, you know, really nasty negative consequences, total breakdown or total evil or whatever it is, right? So that idea. So where does dark magic fit in? So I don't know that dark magic is a like ancient term like the primals. Like it may be that that's something that the elves started calling it dark magic because it's a perspective thing, right? So whatever magic this is, which is this magic that consumes something, there's some kind of exchange that appears to be corrupting, right? You're willing to trade the life of some creature with some inherent magical essence for your own needs. Well, if that's for you and your family or whatever, you might say, well, I need to do that. I mean, obvious parallels are like humans still eat meat, right? Most humans have not evolved beyond kind of the natural cycle or what you might call a natural cycle of killing other creatures to get our sustenance and our energy. Some humans have, right? Some humans have chosen, okay, well, there's a way to move forward and get that energy from other sources. Again, I don't tend to want to weigh in like morally, but I like exploring the idea of what are these trade-offs. I'm not sure exactly how fire fits in, but I'm sure you have ideas that are right in terms of like, you know, fire is always interesting in that it consumes things as well. It converts them to energy. So it has some there. I see the poetic parallels to dark magic for sure. So I don't know. I mean, again, I certainly think at some point the demonstrable pattern in dark magic is that people who have chosen to use it, which is to say they've chosen to say, I allow myself the power to decide that this magical essence is going to me or some purpose I choose, and I am taking it from something else and consuming it and possibly killing it. That decision over time seems to leave the people who make that decision weakened, right? It leaves something where over time they don't have the same, I don't know if it's moral high ground or firmness or strength as someone who has never done that. Again, I would say there are many cases where it feels quite justified and where someone might say, gosh, I'm going to do something that feels wrong and that is wrong to one in order to be right to another, whether that's to more others who can be saved or another who is closer to me and I care about more or whatever. And again, part of the idea here is I hope people grapple with it. There's not a right or a wrong, but that there's something to think about, like how we consume energy, how we spend it, the choices we make, when do we make those choices and how do we, reflect on them? How do they change us? So anyway, I rambled a little, but hopefully there's I was going to say some meat in there, but now that I've used that analogy, I should say some substance, and rather than necessarily being meat.
Yeah, that's definitely very interesting. I think when we were watching The Dragon Prince, we saw like a sort of parallel to modern society in terms of like industrialization and the comparison between, like sort of like environmental degradation and like the corruption you see
Yeah.
in dark magic, right? That humanity uses industrialization for its own benefit and its own sort of like perceived advancement. But then
Yeah.
on the other hand, you see like the negative consequences of doing this in excess.
One thing I want to throw in there is I think sometimes about the connection to Avatar, and specifically for me, one of the things I always struggled with a bit was the ending of season 3, where you've both seen Avatar, correct? I don't want to spoil it.
No.
I haven't seen it yet, but yes.
You can
Oh no! All right, well, I won't spoil it, but I will say that the Avatar uses a power that in my mind is a little too easy. It's a little too easy, and it should not be costless. So to me, the act and that power, I would be more okay with it if we had done a 4th season. We had been able to see the impact that it had on Aang for making that decision. So in other words, in addition to like grappling with what decisions you make, I'm very interested in how do the decisions you make kind of instantly kind of come back into you and change how you grow and what you're becoming and what you are next. And so that's interesting to me.
So let's
Thank you,
move on
Brad.
to another question.
Okay.
So now I want to discuss a character that was introduced in season 1, and of course a character that you brought up before as the first Stark mage, and that's of course Ziard. Will we learn more about him in season 6 or 7, and does he have a connection with Viren and his family?
I don't believe he has a connection with Viren or his family. I don't want to say whether we'll learn more about, you know what I will say? There is more to learn about him that may come after season 7. But yes, he connects to a very important time with Sol Regem, obviously, and with Alarion and things going on between humanity and the dragons and the elves. And yeah, there are some stories we would like to tell that would be after season 7 that connect to Ziard.
All right, so that was pretty interesting, and I can't wait to learn more about Ziard like after season 7. It's definitely pointing towards like a future, and I can't wait to see that. All right,
Cool.
so now let's talk about the Key of Aaravos. Each side of the cube, lights up with a different arcanum. So I don't know if you can answer this, but will all of the members of the Drag Gang have to come together in order to unlock it?
To unlock the key?
Like whatever it unlocks, to unlock whatever the key unlocks.
No, but that's an interesting notion, and I don't know the answer, which is to say, whatever it unlocks, do you have to be somehow connected or having mastered that arcanum to unlock that, if that makes sense? Anyway, what I will say is there's a big reveal about the Key of Aaravos in season 6. A very big reveal about the Key of Aaravos.
I can't wait to see that because I've been wondering about this Key of Aaravos for like ever since like the season 2 came out.
This is one of those examples where Justin and I knew kind of what the Key of Aaravos did in like season 1 when we were first. I mean, obviously that's when it first shows up, and it was like, oh my god, it's going to be so many seasons before people even have a glimpse of what it does, aside from detecting magic and stuff, right? So yeah, season 6, Key of Aaravos. It's there.
Can't wait to see it. All right, so let's move on to our next question. This is finally not really a lore question. Do you have any plans for Terry's character, and will we learn more about him and how he met Claudia exactly?
Yeah, well, I mean, we have many plans for Terry's character. Terry is a main character in The Dragon Prince, and you'll see a lot of him in season 6 and 7. In terms of the origin, or like kind of like the meeting story between Terry and Claudia, yeah, there's a story we have in mind, but I don't know how it's going to get told. I will say we've sometimes talked about kind of a book 3.5 that is like Claudia's story that's focused on really the 2 years Claudia is, moving around Zadia trying to solve the problem of saving her dad. And at the same time, you would have the story of Rayla hunting for Viren, and you might have them cross paths. But during that period, you'd see her meet Terry and other things. So that's we've talked about book 3.5, and maybe as a novel, or maybe we'll get to produce it. I don't know, but maybe it could be a movie, like a Dragon Prince movie between season 3 and season 4. But yeah, there's a story there, and we're looking for the opportunity to tell it at some point.
Yeah, really interesting. I can't wait. A book 3.5 would be really cool. Like a movie, you should do like a movie or like maybe a book. That would be really cool, because I really want to learn what happened in like that time gap, because it's a 2-year time gap. Like,
yeah,
it's a long time.
A lot happened.
All right. So, getting into the last few questions, do you have any plans for the future of the Dragon Prince, specifically regarding the Orphan Queen movie that was teased?
Specifically regarding that. That's another story we would love to tell at some point. Maybe that could be a movie. That story involves both kind of her rise from being an orphan with nothing and no background to becoming the Queen of Katalis. And part of that story also connects to Aaravos and kind of what happened a few hundred years ago. So there's that. And then the other thing that there is more story after season 7 that is important that we're hoping to be able to tell as well. And I'm going to talk more about that actually at Comic-Con.
Yeah, that's definitely really interesting. Because I know something that we were looking forward to ever since we heard about it was the potential for something related to the Orphan Queen. Because I think that's also a really interesting part of the lore.
Season 6 is coming out this week. Is there anything you'd like to add to maybe hype up the release of season 6?
Sure. It's our best season.
Mm-hmm.
Some people will be like, is it better than season 3? I think it's better than season 3, but if people want to say season 3 is better, that's okay too. But we're really, really proud of it. If someone can join us we're going to do a watch party at Comic-Con, where a lot of people are going to be able to watch it in a theater, but also the cast and the crew and myself and a Dragon Prince official are going to be tweeting and talking about it on social media with the hashtag TDP Watch Party. That's going to be at 7 p.m. Pacific. So I don't know if that's too late for East Coasters, but hopefully you can join us for some of it. Hopefully lots of folks will watch together and share kind of the experience of watching season 6. So that's the part I think I would hype.
Yeah, we were also planning of doing a live watch party, maybe on my YouTube channel, doing our own little watch party.
Awesome. Well, if we're getting toward the end, or did you have any more questions, or we're starting to wrap up?
Yeah.
I do want to say thank you, and what an incredible interview. I mean, not just inquisitive, but so insightful. The questions were honestly brilliant questions. This was really engaging conversation, and I've really enjoyed it.
So thanks for your time here today, and I hope that season 6 is going to be really successful. I really can't wait.
Thank you so much. This was awesome. This was really fun.
Great. Thank you so much.
Let's do it again for season 7.
Another season 7. We'll definitely reach out.
Sounds
all right.
perfect.
Thank you.
Thank
Have
you.
a great day.
You too.